Hello everyone and welcome to your very first yoga class. In this practice, we are going to be working together to teach you the very basics that you're going to need to know to start your yoga journey. So the key is to always remember to listen to your own body and pull back where you need to, push forward where you need to. Yoga is all about connecting the mind and body and bringing awareness into our practice. This is a really wonderful practice to start to explore and how our body feels in different poses. The other thing is when we're focusing on our breath, we want to breathe at our own pace at all times. So never waiting for our breathing cues. And to remember to try and connect breath with movement. So that should be one of our main focuses throughout the entire practice. We do cue some certain breaths with different movements, but just remembering to never hold your breath and to always keep breathing. And remembering to find that fine line of where something feels really, really good, run along that line, just never cross it. So if something starts to feel too tight, just pull back or come into something that feels really good. Or if something feels really, really good, you can feel free to stay in it a little longer or go into that pose a little bit deeper. So in this practice, we're going to be working through some of the basic poses that you're going to need to know to start your yoga journey. We do have an entire beginner section. And these are very basic flows that are going to help you, again, working towards learning the practice of yoga. But this is going to be a great class to start. So I'm going to welcome in Lars. He is going to be demonstrating for us. Lars is my husband, my wonderful husband, who's going to be joining us today. So let's all start off by coming down all the way onto our mats. And this is what's called Shavasana or corpse pose. So this is our resting pose that we're going to usually start and finish each class with. Not always, but most likely. So let's get nice and comfortable on our backs. And if this is too much tension in the low back, you can actually bend those knees. So just listening to your body, see what feels best. While we're in Shavasana, we're going to open up those palms, releasing the shoulders. So let's start off by drawing our focus and awareness to our breath. Maybe start to close your eyes, starting to feel the eyes getting heavy, starting to release any tension in the face and jaw, starting to feel that release all the way down into the neck and down into the shoulders. Let's start to connect with breath. So finding your inhalations and exhalations, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, or breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Finding that natural flow of your breath, remembering to never hold your breath. Let's just start to feel that breath drawing our energy into the room as we start to let go of anything outside of these four walls, giving ourselves that full permission to just be here in our practice, focusing on our own mind and our own body. Let's start to feel the shoulders melting away from the ears if we have them held up tight. Starting to feel our arms getting heavy at our sides, releasing down into the hands. Let's inhale our awareness up to the top of the spine. And as we exhale, start to feel one vertebrae at a time releasing all the way down our back, releasing to the base of the spine. Noticing our whole upper body as it sinks down into the mat. Let's start to connect with our full belly breaths, noticing the rise of the belly as we inhale, starting to feel the belly fall as we exhale. Let's connect here for 3 more full belly breaths. Inhale, belly rise. Exhale, belly falls. 2 more full belly breaths at your own pace. And on that last exhalation, let's feel all of the air from our belly squeezing out. And then start to connect back with our regular breath flow, softening into the hips, feeling that weightiness sinking into the legs, down into the knees, the ankles, and the toes. Start to feel your entire body grounding a little bit deeper into the mat with each exhalation. Once again, reminding yourself that your yoga practice is about focusing on your breath, focusing on that present moment, and noticing how your body feels in each and every pose. Bringing awareness into how we transition from pose to pose. And really trying to keep our awareness to our yoga mat. So if and when our minds do wander, which is very, very often for most people, or very normal for it to wander, just acknowledging where our mind wanders to, and then let's bring focus back to breath. So just noticing when your mind wanders, and then refocus that energy each time. Let's start by gently waking the body up, always giving yourself that permission to take your time. So maybe we start to wiggle into the fingers and toes, bringing in that little bit of gentle movement. Maybe we start to rock our head side to side, releasing the neck and shoulders. Coming back to stillness. If it feels good, we're going to take a full body stretch, so arms up overhead. If our shoulders are tight, we can bend at the elbows, and then try to soften the body down here, letting go of any tension. Try to ground back down, connecting with breath. And then as we exhale, let's release our arms back down at our sides. Starting to gently draw the knees in towards the chest. We're going to come into what's called little boat pose. Placing our hands on the shins. We're going to draw the knees in towards the chest. And we're going to gently rock the boat side to side. Just imagining you're in some waves and your little boat just rocking around. So we can even explore a little bit while we're in our little boat pose. Maybe even taking our hands to the knees and then circling the knees around the hips, exploring how that feels in the hips and the low back. Maybe we circle in both directions. Yoga is all about balance. So it's about balancing mind and body, but also physically balancing the body in terms of always making sure to do both sides. We're going to transition from here into what's called happy baby pose. So we're going to draw the knees up and towards the armpits. We're going to open up the knees. We're going to reach for the outsides of the feet. So as you can see here, Lars has reached for the outsides of the feet. The knees are bent, drawn up and towards the armpits. Beautiful. And if this is too much of a hip opener, he can even draw the knees so that they're hip width apart, and then he can reach for the outsides of the legs. So whichever feels best. And if we're staying in just like that, so that makes the hips a little bit more aligned, or if it feels good to open them up, we can just draw the arms to the inside. Beautiful. So from here, we can either stay in stillness, applying a little bit of pressure from the hands down to the feet, or we can even gently rock side to side. If you notice when you start to rock side to side, it actually feels a little bit more challenging. This opens the hips up a little bit deeper. So if your hips are really tight, you're really going to be feeling this. So just making sure you're listening to your body here. Okay, so from here, we're going to exhale, release the feet back down to the mat. We're going to draw those feet hip width apart, remembering to square off those hips and engage our core muscles. So a lot of times when we're doing our yoga poses, we also want to focus on engaging our core. And the reason for this is because we're building strong abdominal muscles that help protect the low back. So if you suffer from low back pain, those muscles actually wrap around, then this can really help strengthen that. So we're going to do a little bridge pose. So let's start with our knees bent, feet are hip width apart. Let's start by engaging our core. So how we do this is we press our spine down into the mat. We squeeze the belly button to spine. So we're squeezing those abdominal muscles. And we can even have a little pelvic tilt here. So once you tilt the pelvis towards the body, it makes it easier to squeeze the core. Have you noticed you're holding your breath here? So let's try to focus on finding that breath flow. A lot of times when we engage the core, we squeeze and then we hold our breath. So we want to make sure we're still breathing. So let's come into that bridge. We're going to squeeze the core. We're going to start to peel the hips up off the mat, one vertebrae at a time, lifting hips up towards the ceiling. Pressing our weight into the palms, lifting up as high as you're comfortable. Beautiful. So from here, we're imagining there's a string in the belly button, pulling our hips all the way up as high as we feel comfortable. We're breathing here. We're not holding breath. And then if this is too much, we can start to exhale, release back down, one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. Let's counter that in little boat pose by releasing the spine. So we're going to draw the knees back into the chest, placing hands on the shins, and we're going to gently rock side to side. This is a wonderful releasing pose. So if ever you're lying down on your back and you feel like you're feeling a lot of tension, come to little boat pose, and that's going to help release that. So from here, let's draw that right knee in towards the chest and then take that left leg down. Beautiful, feeling that really nice stretch here. And then we're going to practice opening up the hips. So take the right hand to the right knee, and we're going to open that right hip to the right side. Beautiful. So this is a really wonderful way to open up the hips, and this helps prep you for some of our yoga practice. Let's exhale back into alignment. Let's draw that left knee in towards the chest. Let's take the right leg back down, placing our hands on the left shin. Beautiful. And then maybe take that left hand to the left knee and open the left leg to the left side, opening up that hip, noticing how this feels. And again, this is really helpful for opening up any tension we have here to help with the rest of our yoga flow. Exhaling back to center. Let's release that leg back down and take one more full body stretch, releasing the entire body. Again, bending at the elbows if our shoulders are really tight. Beautiful. Excellent. So from here, let's make our way onto our right side. Just take 3 resting breaths before coming into a tabletop position. So this is a really nice resting pose that we can turn to before we come to standing. Sometimes we just need to give our body a moment before we come out of that Shavasana or lying down. And the reason we lie on our right side is to take the pressure off the heart. So once you're ready, let's make our way into tabletop. So once we come to tabletop, what you want to do is you want to focus on stacking the knees directly under the hips and the wrists directly under the shoulders. So let's all take a second to look down and make sure those wrists are under the shoulders, knees are under the hips. Beautiful. Once we're here, we really want to focus on engaging that core. So squeezing belly button to spine. We want a nice long spine here. So if you notice there's a big arch down here, pull up through the core, lengthen in the spine. We always want to find length through the neck here. So try not to crank the neck back. We're going to come into what's called cat and cow pose. So from here, let's imagine we have a string in the center of our spine. And then I'm going to pull it up towards the ceiling as we tuck the chin to the chest, tucking the tailbone, rounding the spine. Imagine that string pulling you all the way up to the ceiling, squeezing the core, belly button to spine. Exhale to cow pose. We're going to drop the belly button down, tailbone comes up, shoulders roll back. So this is our cat and cow. We're going to inhale back to cat pose, tucking the tailbone, tuck the chin to the chest, round the spine. Exhale to cow pose, drop the belly button down to the mat, tailbone comes up, shoulders roll back. Beautiful. So as you can see, Lars is working through these 2 nice spinal movements. Now you can go at your own pace here. So the key is to keep the hips and shoulders stacked through each movement and transition, and to keep the core engaged and to not crank the neck back too far. We want to protect the neck, and we also want to protect the low back by engaging those muscles. So how does this cat-cow feel? It's good, excellent. So this is, again, a really great pose you can come to if you're feeling like there's a lot of tension built up. Let's do 2 more. Beautiful. Last one. And again, we're getting that spinal movement, which is really good for getting us into some other yoga poses as well. So we're going to come into what's called puppy pose. Puppy pose is going to be the pose you come into if downward dog is too much for you. So from here, staying in that tabletop, keep the hips and shoulders stacked. Let's take those hands up about a foot up from where they were. So up towards the top of the mat. We're going to keep the bum exactly where it is, keep the hips up. People tend to want to drop the bum back here. We want to keep that up. And then we're going to melt the chest and forehead down to the mat, lengthen in the spine, and then lengthen in the arms. So Lars is quite tall, so his arms are going to come off the mat. But as you can see here, he has a wonderful scoop from the base of his spine all the way through to the neck, all the way down the arms through to the hands. So as you can see, there's a really nice arch in his back here, but he's protecting the knees, the ankles, and the wrists if downward dog feels like too much for you. So puppy pose is what you're going to come into if downward dog does not feel good, or if puppy pose just feels good in addition to downward dog. So now let's gently walk our hands back towards our body, pressing into the palms, coming back into tabletop, realigning, re-engage. Because remember, when we're transitioning from pose to pose, we need to check back in with our bodies, re-engage those muscles. If we're doing everything too kind of loose here and we're not engaging, that's when we can injure ourselves. So realigning. Okay, now we're going to practice our first downward dog. This pose can feel wonderful for one person, not so great for the next. And so it's really about adjusting for your body. And the key is with this one is keep practicing, because our very first downward dog is going to be so challenging, but the more you do it, the better you'll get. Also, the key is to listening to where you're shifting your weight, because if we have our weight forward, it's going to hurt the wrists. We always want to make sure we shift weight back. So let's get into that first one together. So staying in tabletop, we're going to take our hands up about a foot up from where they were. We're going to make an L shape with the thumb and pointer fingers, just like that, spreading our fingertips nice and wide. Okay, we're going to start by tucking the toes, and then let's just practice shifting weight back. So let's lift the knees up off the mat and hover. So just getting a feeling of having that weight lifted. Exhale to release. Okay, and then the next time we do that, we're going to lift the knees. We're going to press back into the heels, lengthen through the legs here. Lengthen through the spine and lengthen through the legs. So as you can see, Lars is like a diamond shape here, or a triangle, I should say. So he's going to press into the low back. Beautiful. So this is a wonderful downward dog. There's length through the spine all the way through to the hands. He has his weight shifted back into the heels. If this is too much, you want to make sure you shift the weight back to take pressure off the wrists. But again, we can even walk out the knees here. This is called walking the dog. Sometimes moving around a little bit in down dog helps to make this pose a little bit more, standable, if that makes any sense. So again, let's drop the knees down, coming back to tabletop. So notice how that feels. Are you feeling a lot of tension in your wrists? That's very normal, especially if you've never done downward dog before. Okay, if this is too much, you're going to know right away if that pose was too intense for you. And if that's the case, that's all right. Just come down to puppy pose each and every time we say down dog. Let's try that one more time together. Again, the key is to practice. Practice is where we're going to keep our body just starting to get strengthened and to be able to be more familiar with these poses. So taking those hands up a foot up from where they were. So let's walk that through together. So Lars is a very advanced yogi, so he's ahead of the game. So coming back to tabletop, let's take those hands up a foot up from where they were. Make that L shape with the thumb and pointer fingers. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, pressing back into the heels, send the bum to the back, lengthen through the spine. And if you have someone who's with you, ask them to see if your body's in that triangle shape. Because if you have a really rounded spine, you want to make sure you're protecting the low back by finding that length. And sometimes just by applying a little bit of pressure here, you're going to lengthen. Let's release back down. Beautiful. Maybe shake out the wrists. We've held that for a little bit longer than maybe feels good. So remembering to shake out the body here, shake out anything that feels good. So now from here, we're going to transition into child's pose. So what we want to do is draw the knees to either edge of the mat. So widen up those hips, beautiful. Toes come to touch. Okay, and then we're going to take those hands up towards the top of the mat. We're going to send the bum to the back of the heels and then lengthen from, we can even release those feet down. So if your toes are tucked, try to soften them down. Beautiful, and then lengthen from the spine all the way through to the hands. So child's pose is a wonderful pose to come to find some grounding, find your breath, or if downward dog or your yoga flow is too much, this is going to be your resting pose. If child's pose feels like too much on the hips, you're going to come back to puppy pose because that takes the pressure off the hips. So while we're in child's pose, the key is to stay grounded by connecting with breath, visualizing ourselves rooting down through the hands and feet. This is a very nurturing pose. So again, coming to this at any point where you're feeling a lot of stress, and this is going to be a nice practice for you to come into, or a nice pose for you to come into. How does this child's pose feel? A thumbs up from Lars. Beautiful. Let's transition out of this. Let's pull back to tabletop. Excellent. So nice and slow and controlled, listening to the body. Realign those hips. Okay, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to make our way back to downward dog just for a moment though. So stacking those hips, stacking the knees. We're going to tuck the toes, draw our hands up about a foot up from where they were, sending the weight back to the heels, making that diamond shape. Just for a moment though, we're going to look forward at our hands, and we're going to take a walk or bunny hop to the top of the mat. Beautiful. So nice, slow, making that walk or bunny hop to the top of the mat. We're going to send that tailbone up to the sky. Take a forward fold. So we're going to drop the chest down towards the thighs, taking that nice fold here. If you're holding your neck tight, just release it. So softening that tension. So this is a really great way to release tension down the legs. And then from here, we're going to release to what's called ragdoll. So bend the knees nice and deep. Drop the chest down towards the thighs. Arms get heavy, release the neck. Maybe we sway gently side to side, or maybe we come to stillness. So ragdoll is a wonderful pose that we can do to release tension from the body. So from here, we're picturing gravity just pulling you down, releasing anything from the body that is no longer in need. And then we're going to start to slowly stack the spine, making our way up to standing. While we're doing this though, we're engaging the glutes. So while we roll up, we squeeze the glutes, tuck the tailbone, and then roll our way up. The reason we do this, and we're going to roll our way to mountain, shoulders roll back, palms open to the front. Okay, and the reason why we want to engage the glutes when we're rolling up is we're protecting the low back muscles. So when we come from that forward fold to that ragdoll, if we just roll it like this, you're going to maybe pull the low back. But if we roll up from ragdoll, we squeeze the glutes, we bend the knees, we start to tuck the tailbone, squeezing those glutes as we roll our way back up to mountain. That whole low back is fully protected. You're going to feel the difference if your glutes are not engaged. So mountain pose, we open up the palms, release the shoulders, lengthen in the spine, beautiful. So mountain pose is a great way to recenter and reground, finding our breath. So let's just take a moment here. Maybe we close our eyes and we connect back with breath. So let's find those inhalations and exhalations. Beautiful. From here, we're going to open up our eyes. We're going to press into the feet. We're going to sweep the arms to reach all the way up. Pressing palms together. We're going to lengthen through the body. Then we're going to exhale to the right side. So drawing those arms to the right side. And then we're actually going to press into the left foot. And this is going to lengthen through that left side body. Inhale back to center, lengthen. Exhale to the left side, pressing into the right foot. And that's going to lengthen through that right body. These are our tall mountain stretches. Inhale back to center. As we exhale, let's release to Tadasana as hands come to the heart. Let's repeat that one more time together. So these are called our tall mountain stretches. So let's release to mountain first. So releasing the palms, roll those shoulders back, tucking the tailbone, engage the glutes, squeezing belly button to spine. Okay, let's slowly start to inhale, sweep those arms, reaching all the way up. Lengthen here, pressing palms together as we exhale to the right side, pressing into the left foot. Inhale back to center. Exhale to the left side, pressing into the right foot. You're going to feel that nice stretch. And then inhale back to center. Exhale into Tadasana. Hands come back to the heart. When we're here, our arms are not down here. We're engaging. So we're pressing the palms together. We're opening up the chest. We're squeezing the core and tucking the tailbone. So can you see the difference between me doing this and this? Okay, so you can see I'm activating my whole body. Yoga is about bringing awareness into all of those little muscles. So always checking in to make sure we're fully engaging and we're still breathing. Okay, so we're going to transition into what's called Warrior Two. So this is a really popular flow to do in a yoga practice. It's a really strengthening pose. So let's start off by shifting our weight into the left leg. Let's draw our hands to the heart into Tadasana to recenter. And then we're going to step back with the right foot to the back of the mat, placing it parallel at the back of the mat. So this right foot is parallel, and then that left foot should be facing towards the front of the room. As you can see, Lars has length down his right leg, and then that left leg, make sure that left knee is stacked over the left ankle. So you want that nice bent knee. Once we're here, we tuck the tailbone, engage the core, to protect the low back. Okay, we're going to come into that full Warrior Two. So let's inhale the left arm forward, right arm to the back. So we're opening up the chest here. Beautiful. So he has nice length through the arms. Checking that arm. So if we look back and the arm's down here, we want to pull it back up. So leveling from that back hand all the way through to the front. We can make little peace fingers and make sure we're looking towards the front of the room. Beautiful, keeping that core engaged. So this is our Warrior Two pose. To reverse our warrior, we take that right hand, placing it on the back of the right thigh. We're going to inhale that left arm. So open up the palm towards the ceiling first. And then we're going to inhale that left arm to reach all the way up, feeling that really nice reverse warrior. So if we're bending back too far, let's pull up strong, nice and tall, feeling that length through the front body. Beautiful. Keeping that core nice and strong. Let's exhale back to Warrior Two. So left arm to the front, right arm to the back, realign, re-engage. Making sure that left knee is still over that left ankle. Beautiful. Very nice. So that's our reversed warrior. We're going to come into a side angle stretch. So from here, let's drop that left arm just above the left knee. And then that right arm is going to reach towards the front of the room, opening up that right shoulder. If we look down and that bottom hand is kind of flopped down, let's activate it. Drawing it nice and strong, open up that shoulder, open up that right shoulder as well. You're going to press into that right foot, and you're going to feel that open up that right side body. Let's press into the left foot, inhale back to Warrior Two, realign, re-engage, checking that front knee, back leg, and arms. Beautiful. Very nice Warrior Twos. So now we're going to transition into Trikonasana. So this is a more challenging pose. So just listening kind of step by step how we go through this. So staying in Warrior Two, we're going to send that right hip to the back. We're going to straighten the left leg. And then we're going to take that left arm and we're going to reach it as far forward as we can. Once that doesn't go any further, we're going to drop that left wrist underneath the left shoulder, lengthen through that right arm. Beautiful. So that left hand should be on the inside of the left leg. Right arm reaches up towards the sky. So you're opening up that chest. Beautiful. Length down the front leg. Let's bend the left knee and then realign back to Warrior Two. Pulling up strong, realigning here. Beautiful, very nice. So that is our Trikonasana or triangle pose. So from here, let's release the arms down, take a big step forward to the top of the mat, walk it out, grab your water if you need it, always remembering to take water breaks at your own pace. So now we're going to do this one on the other side. So let's just bring our focus and awareness back to breath. Let's get back to the top of the mat. Maybe open up the palms for mountain. Maybe we close our eyes, start to recenter ourselves. And then drawing our hands into Tadasana, hands come to the heart. Let's shift weight back into the right side. And we're going to step back the left foot, placing it parallel at the back of the mat. Coming into Warrior Two on the other side. Beautiful. So that left foot is parallel. That right foot faces forward. We want to look and make sure that right knee is stacked over the right ankle. Right arm reaches forward, left arm to the back. Tucking the tailbone, engage the core. Beautiful, length down that back leg. Excellent. So nice strong Warrior Two. Let's come into our reversed warrior. So let's lower that left hand down to the left thigh. Right palm faces the ceiling. Inhale, reach that right arm all the way up, feeling length all the way through that front body. Beautiful reversed warrior. Very nice. Inhaling back to warrior two. Realign. Check out that knee, the arms, the core. We're going to come into side angle stretch. So drop that right arm just above the right knee. Left arm reaches towards the front of the room, coming into our side angle stretch. Pressing from that left foot all the way through to the hand. Beautiful. Activate that bottom hand if it's flopped down. And then find your breath. Find that breath flow. Beautiful. Inhale back to warrior two. Re-strengthen. Let's send that left hip to the back, straighten the right leg, reaching forward as far as we can as we topple down into Trikonasana. So that right wrist is directly under the right shoulder, and then that left arm reaches all the way up, opening up in the chest. So this is our triangle pose. As you can see, the legs look like a triangle. Beautiful, very nice. Bend the right knee, drawing back into warrior two. The reason we do that is so that we don't pull anything as we come back up. Realigning, beautiful warrior two pose. Let's take a big step forward, release, walk it all out. Shake that out. Excellent. So we're just going to come into a couple more poses together. There's so much in our yoga practice to learn. These are just a few poses that you're going to get started with, but I promise you, the more you practice, you'll pick it up. So let's do warrior one together. So let's start by bringing focus back to breath. Come back to mountain pose. We've learned that mountain now. Let's find your breath, recenter. Let's come to Tadasana, hands to the heart. Let's shift weight into the left side. This time, we're going to take the right foot to the back, but we're going to keep that hip forward, and we're actually going to keep that right heel up off the mat. So in warrior two, we planted it parallel. This time, the right heel is up off the mat and everything's facing forward. The left knee is back over that left ankle. Lengthen in the spine. Just reach those arms all the way up. So this is our warrior one. Warrior one, everything faces forward. Beautiful, very nice warrior one. Find your breath, if we're holding that breath again. And then we're gonna do a little flow here. Exhale, arms to a T shape. Strong through the core. Inhale, warrior one, reaching up. Exhale to a T shape. Beautiful. One more time, inhale, warrior one. Very nice. Let's take a big step forward, release out. Recenter in mountain. We're going to transition to the other side. Find your breath, hands together in Tadasana, shifting into the right side, taking the left foot to the back of the mat, keeping the heel off the mat. Hips are squared off and forward, core is engaged. Right knee is directly over the right ankle. Inhale the arms up for warrior one. Beautiful. Exhale, arms to a T shape. Inhale, warrior one. Exhale, arms to a T. Inhale, warrior one. Beautiful. Realign, re-engage those muscles. Take a big step forward, walk it all out. Beautiful. Let's come to a nice wide-legged stance. So Lars is going to step back the left foot, and he's going to make it so both feet are parallel at the edges of the mat. So check down and make sure that both feet are parallel at the edges of your mat. We're going to come into what's called goddess pose. So let's draw those heels inwards, just slightly, 45-degree angle. So your toes should be pointing towards the edges of the mat. Once we're here, we want to tuck the tailbone, squeeze the core. We're going to sink down into almost like a chair, and we're going to bend those knees so the knees are kind of stacked over the ankles, long spine, arms to a cactus shape this time. So a lot of times what happens is people's arms are down here. Pull up strong, open up the chest, spread those fingertips nice and wide. This is our goddess. If this is too much, we can press into the feet and rise, so we can lengthen. Okay, so if we're in goddess and we're holding for too long and it starts to get really tiring, you can find movement. You can inhale to rise, exhale to goddess. Okay, if this goddess feels really good though, staying here, squeeze, re-engage, find your breath, make sure you're still breathing. Excellent, Beautiful goddess pose, press into the feet and rise. Release the arms, shake it out. Goddess is a very challenging pose. As you can see, it's like doing a squat, but for a very long time. So just make sure, again, you're breathing in that one. And like I said, if it's too much to squat down, find some movement and kind of pulsate in that goddess pose up and down. I always find movement helps with every pose, depending on what it is. So like I said, with downward dog, if we're holding and then you just start to bend those knees back and forth, it really helps to kind of elongate that pose. Goddess, if you find a little movement up and down, that also helps. Another tip is even with our Warrior Two, you can even find some movement there. When you're in your Warrior Two pose, you can even just move the legs up and down, stretch it forward and back. Or remembering to just listen to your body, but I find sometimes that little bit of movement will help. Let's come into a balance pose together. So in our yoga practice, you'll notice with each and every class, we're always doing different balance poses. The reason why balance is so important is because as we age, that's actually one of the first things that we start to lose is our balance. So the key is to try and start to incorporate balance into our daily practice, or at least our weekly practice. We're building up all those little muscles in the feet and ankles, the calves, the hips. And this is going to help us as we age because we start to lose that first. So let's start off by coming into tree pose. Remember, if you start to feel really rocky in this, you can always feel free to come to a wall, or you can always feel free to have a chair in front of you as well. We don't ever want to fall in a balance pose because that's when we can really injure ourselves. So we're going to take this slow. Let's start off by recenter. Find your breath in mountain, shoulders back. Find that nice flow. Beautiful. Let's draw our hands to the heart in Tadasana, shifting weight into the right leg. Let's start by finding a focal point, something in front of us that's not going to move, rooting down that right side. And then we're going to just start by kickstand, that left foot at the right ankle. Open up that left hip. Beautiful. So we're just going to kickstand here. Pull up through the spine nice and tall. Imagine that string at the center of your head pulling you up. Okay, so this is our stage 1 of tree pose. Stage 2 of tree pose, if you're feeling really balanced, is we're going to take that left foot and place it underneath the knee on the calf. Never on the knee. We want to protect the knee. Pull up strong through the spine. Maybe we start to branch out those tree branches, spreading our fingertips nice and wide. Find your breath, rooting down to that right side. Beautiful trees. If you're a breezy tree and you're moving around, that's okay too. Excellent. Let's draw our hands back to the heart. Let's draw the left knee forward first. Release it down, walk out those hips. Very nice tree. Lars is a very advanced yogi, and so his tree was quite solid, as you can see. So let's start off by shifting into, or let's get to the other side. So shifting into the left foot. Beautiful. And then we're going to just kickstand that right foot at the left ankle. Tall through the spine, hands to the heart. Find your breath. Find that focal point. And then maybe we draw the right foot up to the calf if that feels good. And then branching out those tree branches, spreading our fingertips nice and wide. Make sure we're breathing. Excellent. Very nice. Exhale, hands back to the heart. Let's draw that right knee forward first. And then drop it down, walk it out. Awesome. Beautiful tree poses. And again, if they're breezy, that's okay. The other thing with balance is notice every day is a little different. One day, you're going to stick that tree and you're going to feel like it's so solid. And then the very next day, you're going to feel like you can't even take that foot up off the ground. It also depends on how much sleep you've had, how much food you've eaten, so many different factors. So again, always remembering when you need to bring in a wall or a chair for that balance. Let's make our way back to the top of the mat. Okay, we're going to restack ourselves in mountain here. Find our breath. Beautiful. Let's inhale, sweep those arms, reaching all the way up. And as we exhale, let's take a full fold, stretching out those legs, feeling that nice release. Beautiful. From here, let's bend those knees deep. We're going to plant the hands. We're going to step back with the right foot, step back with the left foot, press back to down dog, sinking into the heels. Beautiful. And then we can release down to tabletop, realigning the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's release that all in cat and cow as we work through that spinal movement, tucking the tailbone, tucking the chin to the chest. Exhale, drop the belly button down, tailbone comes up, shoulders roll back. Let's do this a couple more times at our own pace. This is going to help release any tension that may have built up in our Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, or any of those poses we did. Beautiful, very nice. Let's release back to child's pose before we come to our final Shavasana. So knees to the edges of the mat, toes come to touch. We're going to melt the bum back to the heels, lengthen through the arms, releasing all the way down here. So again, child's pose, really wonderful way to rest. And again, if this is too much, we're going to lift the bum coming into puppy pose, because that's going to be your alternative. And just listening to our body, and if this feels good, you can stay in here a little longer, or if you're feeling ready for it, we're going to make our way into our final Shavasana. So that's our final resting pose that we started off the practice with. So let's make our way back down onto our backs whenever we're ready. So making our way down, remembering if our low back feels tight, we can always keep the knees bent. If it feels good to come to a full Shavasana, we're going to ground the body down, open up the palms, and then just start to bring our presence back into the room. Maybe closing our eyes if we're feeling comfortable, starting to soften all those little muscles in the face and jaw. Feeling the shoulders pulling away from the ears if we have them held up tight. Arms getting heavy at our sides. We're going to bring awareness up to the top of the spine, and as we exhale, visualizing one vertebrae at a time, releasing all the way down our backs. Starting to reconnect with our full belly breaths. Let's notice the rise of the belly as we inhale, feeling the fall as we exhale. 2 more full belly breaths. Coming back to that regular breath flow, starting to soften into the hips, releasing down the legs. With your Shavasana, feel free to stay here as long as you feel comfortable. This should be something that you can fully relax into. And again, bring awareness to breath whenever mind wanders back outside the room. And then from here, whenever you're ready, let's wiggle back into the fingers and toes. Maybe we start to rock our head side to side, releasing the neck and shoulders. Beautiful, coming back to stillness. Maybe we draw those knees back in towards the chest, coming back to little boat pose, placing hands on the shins, rocking gently side to side to release the low back and spine. This is where we want to check back in with our bodies. Now that we're at the end of our practice, notice how your body feels. Noticing now how it feels versus the beginning of our practice. We want to check in with our physical body, our emotional body, and our breath. And our emotional body is just our state of emotions. How were we feeling at the beginning of our practice? Were we feeling hyper, or maybe sad, or angry about something? And then maybe now we're feeling wonderful, or maybe you're feeling a little stressed because you feel like that yoga practice didn't go the way you thought it would. The key is to remember to be gentle with yourself, to always have self-compassion. And remember, this was your first practice and you did amazing. This is the beginning of your yoga journey. So just being really gentle with yourself. So checking in with that emotional state. Let's make our way to our right side. This time we're going to take 5 resting breaths before coming to a seated position. So just find that breath flow. Again, always giving yourself permission to take your time. Remembering to have that self-compassion for yourself in each and every yoga practice, regardless of which level you are at. Honoring your body in each and every moment. by listening to what it's telling you. That is the key to your yoga practice, to bringing awareness into mind and body. Let's open up those palms, release those shoulders. Maybe we close our eyes and find our breath. Maybe we have a little smile on our face because we just completed our very first yoga practice. As we reconnect with breath, let's start to send our entire body that love and light that it deserves. Visualizing it going to each and every part of our body, thanking it for all it does for us in our practice. Let's draw our hands up to the center between the eyes as we bow down in full gratitude. Slowly drawing our hands back to our hearts. And thank you all so much for joining myself and Lars in today's yoga practice. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us for your very first yoga practice. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you struggled through any of the poses, I hope you're not discouraged. I hope that you just take that as an opportunity to explore more in each and every pose and to expand your practice. Try out some other beginners yoga classes that we have, and just remembering to listen to your body and thank it for all it does for you. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'm so excited for your yoga journey. And thank you so much, Lars, as well. Have a good day, everyone. Namaste.